to Tuesday training.
We put together some awesome highlights from this last Winston-Salem school. We got Glenn and C.O. Lee. We got $1 Million earners, some of the top builders from the school, promotions, watches, rings, lots of things happening. We talking about Coco. People want to know about Coco. And then if you, hey, settle down. Now listen.
Talking to the Tuesday people.
Were you there? Were you there? Well, obviously, these people were here.
Guys
but
were
are you
here.
there? Were you there?
But were you there? Were you there, right?
So, all right. If not, start your plan now. Go to getbigorgohome.com for the details. Get involved. Plug in. It starts at Tuesday night. You want to find out what's happening, plug in on Tuesday nights at 7 Eastern. And just remember, we are an SNSD factory.
To make a long story short, I used to take trips to Rutgers to hang out. My parents would think I was going to class, but I would go hang out in my friend's apartment. But my friend knew I was there. I didn't have money, so I would eat all his food, you know. And one day he wanted to get me out, but he was a nice guy. So he had a friend who had a friend who had a friend. Okay, I mean I told that story like a zillion times. Okay. But it's crazy because he had a friend, his roommate, my friend Dave's roommate, Tom, had brought his friends down, right? He brought his friend Alan down, who had another friend down, and we all went to this bar/lounge, and I had money for that. I didn't have money for anything else, but I remember it was $5, right? I have $5 in my pocket. It was 15-cent chicken wings, and $2 pitchers of beer. So I remember sitting there, I was hanging out, man, everything was cool. And until this guy, Alan, who was my friend's friend, was talking to the friend he brought down, and they were arguing. I go, what are you guys talking about? Why are you arguing? They were talking about work. Alan goes to this his friend, he goes, you guys rip people off, you guys screw people, you guys sell that whole life stuff. And then this guy looks at Alan. He goes, yeah. He said, yeah. He goes, yeah, but you guys just recruit anybody. And I was looking for some at that time. So I go to Alan. I go, is it true? You guys recruit anybody, right? And then, to make a long story short, a week later, I was in an op meeting. And so in my op meeting, I was kind of dressed like that. But he said, look sharp, so I ponytailed my hair, right? He said, dress sharp, so I put my earrings on, right? My silver earrings, couldn't afford gold, right? But my silver earrings, like the big ones, right? I put my earrings in, and then because he goes, dress sharp. I thought I was going for an interview. Like, he goes, don't wear jeans. So I wore my old Applebee's khakis, right? Still had stains on them. He goes, you gotta wear, don't wear a t-shirt, because that's all I used to wear. But so I put on a flannel. And I went to Chinatown and I bought, 3 ties. You could buy 3 ties for $5. So I bought a tie on top of a flannel, and I have my old combat boots on because he said no sneakers. So I'm thinking I'm freaking sharp as crap, I'm sitting in the op meeting. Alan brings me into this room, and I'm looking around. He goes, why there's other people in this room? I'm looking around. I go, why are there other people in this room? And I start thinking, man, that's because we're competing for the same job. See, he didn't explain to me what it was, right? I thought we were competing for the same position. So I'm looking over there. I'm like, man, nobody looks as sharp as me. And I'm sitting down, right? I'm thinking there's cameras, right? And then all of a sudden, the guy that invited me down invited somebody else down. And this guy looked sharp. He was like 6'5". He was built, right? Like I was built, but not like that, okay? But he looked like he was wearing a tuxedo. His hair was perfect. You ever see people with perfect hair? Like something's wrong with them, So I go, something's wrong with this guy. And he sits down and the first 3 speakers come up. First person's talking about the credibility of the company, right? Second person's talking about it was a 4-person op. Second person's talking about like the concepts, the rule of 72. The third person, I forgot what they were talking about. I was intimidated already at that time. And I'm watching, I thought I was on camera, so I'm taking notes. I look at this guy and he's taking notes faster than I'm taking notes. And all the notes he was taking was really, really neat. You know, he looked like he was typing, but he was taking notes. So I look over, I'm like, man, I go, he might get this job. And I'm taking notes, right? I'm intimidated by the speakers because I'm thinking, I didn't go to school for finance. I'm not even in school. How am I going to get this job? That's what I was thinking. And then the last speaker comes up, and it was Keith Otto. And Keith gets in front of the room, and he starts joking around. He starts cursing. You guys know Keith, right? Starts joking around, right? Starts cursing. And all of a sudden I start feeling comfortable. And he goes, I didn't even go to college. I passed by a college. I used to be a plumber, right? And he would tell all these jokes. I was like, man, he didn't go to college. He goes, at least I had a 1.1 GPA. He had a 0, right? So I started feeling comfortable. And I'm telling you the truth, that if Keith wasn't the last speaker, if it was some smart guy, intelligent, some guy breaking down the math, I probably wouldn't have felt good enough about myself to join the business. Does that make sense? Or at least not at that time. I'm looking next to me, and this guy who's so sharp was falling asleep. I go, the best part of the meeting, this guy's falling asleep, right? He's like dozing off. And then when Alan gets both of us to go up to meet with Keith, Keith goes to Alan, he goes, what interested you the most? Was it the financial concepts or was it the business opportunity? And this guy said to Keith, he goes, everything looks good. He goes, are there any other positions here? I go, wait a moment. He goes, because I got a lot on my plate and I got job interviews tomorrow. I looked at the guy and I'm thinking, I go, didn't you just hear Keith 45 minutes talk about there is no such thing as a good job? And you're telling him you got a job interview. I go, he's not going to hire you anymore. Forget you, right? So, and then Keith comes to me. This guy leaves. Keith comes to me, and never to be seen again. I don't even know what happened to him, right? Don't know what happened to my upline either. But anyway, so this guy, right? Well, not this guy. Keith comes up to me. He goes, well, what interested you most? I go, everything. I'm interested in the $10,000 a month, right? He didn't know that if I made $10,000 a month, I ain't gonna show up the next 11 months, right? And I wish I could tell you that we started off fast, but we didn't, okay? And I'm gonna show you the numbers. Because when we came into this business, we had the 3 no's. And I had no financial service experience. How many of you guys can relate to that, right? I had no credibility. Who could relate to no credibility, right? I really had no credibility, right? I had no credibility. Now, I used to say that I had no market. I believe everybody has a market. Right? You got to dig a little bit deeper sometimes, okay? But everybody's got a market. I just had no credibility in my market, right? Like my uncles didn't want me hang out with my cousins, right? Because they were like, oh, stay away from him, right? But that was, and by the way, it wasn't their fault. It was my fault because of the way I was at that time. Does that make sense? And so sometimes when people don't do us favors, and I understand, right, that the naysayers and everything, I'll talk about that in a second, but the point is sometimes we create our situation. Does that make sense? And we all are going to start from different places, but it's all about perseverance, okay? So watch, no credibility, I had no work ethic, right? I used to invite people to the opportunity meeting, and I would invite, like, Keith used to talk about the numbers. Right? I go, yeah, I understand the numbers. You said 10-4-1, invite 10-4, will show 1 will join. I go, I know that, Keith. Why you keep going over that in training? Meanwhile, every meeting I would invite one person and expected them to show. Right? I go, I know this already. I could even write it out. 10-4-1. He used to say 8-5-3-1. Right? 8-5-3-1. I go, yeah, but I had one appointment last week. It didn't go through. I felt sorry for myself. But it was really work ethic. See, I used to work hard and then I would stop working. I would go prospecting. How many of you guys go prospecting? And at the time, I didn't know, I thought prospecting was only go out and talk to people you don't know to get a name and number. That's what I thought it was, right? Because I had selective hearing. And so I would go out, and I remember going to TJ Maxx or Marshall's, and walking around, right? I got to hone into my target. Because I would find the person I want to prospect. I got to isolate. I didn't like talking to people in groups. Because they all cancel each other out, Somebody's interested, this person makes that person not interested. I go, I don't want to do that. So I would isolate, I would trap people in corners. And I would talk to people, right? I would get them, right? I would get around people and I would look at them. And then they would and I would smile, right? And then they would look at me and they're like, okay. And then I would walk around them and smile again. And 10 minutes later, they still see me smiling because I'm trying to think. They see me smiling. They don't know what I'm thinking. I'm trying to think of what to say. I'm trying to combat them. I'm trying to overcome the objections they haven't given me yet in my head, right? I'm trying to overcome these objections, right? And then it's crazy because after 10 minutes, 15 minutes, they're afraid of you. And I would go prospecting, right? And I would come home with no names and numbers. And I would be exhausted. I would be like, man, hard work, right? Hard work, right? So because of the way I was, see, your income, my income reflected the way I thought. Does that make sense? It reflected my habits. And so if you take a look at my income, okay, the first year I made a whopping $75. Not like some of the people make today, $75,000 their first year, $300,000 their first year. I made $75. Who would be excited about that? Guys, if you did one by one, you already made more. I made $75. And then my whole entire $2,000. Now, I was still working on my job, right? $10 an hour, right? I heard somebody in Orlando talk about, and this lady was a stud. She goes, I gave up $250,000 in income, right? Before I made $250,000. Dude, I didn't give up $10 an hour for 2 years, right? Because I didn't believe in myself, right? In 2000, I made $226. Is that pretty good? That $226 was one appointment that I did that was a split. Because I was licensed, but I was second agent on it because I wasn't ready to do my own appointments yet. The person that in the beginning that really didn't like Primerica the most was my father. He was the one that was like, oh, why don't you get it? Like I had my uncle call me from Canada trying to stop me from Primerica, right? He has a PhD. He's a chemistry professor. Try to stop me from. He had all my family members give me a call to try to get me out of Primerica. And I remember putting that $226 on top of the table. And he goes, and I'm thinking, man, he's going to be proud. So I'm going to show him that this thing works. You know what he says to me? He goes, you've been there for a year and a half, right? And you made $226. But watch, that's not what I thought. You know what I thought? That was a 1 hour appointment. That was a 1 hour appointment. Really, it was a split appointment, okay? And it was a split sale. So I didn't even do the work. So it was $226 I made, really half an hour's worth of work. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking because my father's thinking, you know what? You're missing every Saturday. You're missing every Tuesday. You're out there working. He thinks that I'm working and not getting paid. I wasn't working. I was just showing up to meetings to learn. Right? But think about people that go to college. They go for 4 years. Not only do they not make money, but they got to pay money, right? So $226 I made, right? And so in my mind, I'm like, man, it's crazy. $226, half an hour's worth of work. What if I actually worked a full hour? What if I worked 10 hours? What if I worked 100? And so the next year, I made $28.62, right? And by the way, I don't want to scare the new people, okay? Because there's new people that make this, that bank more than this in 1 week. I'm just showing you my story. And I'm just saying, it doesn't matter, right? Maybe you're not where you want to be right now, and you've been here for a while. It doesn't matter, because all it takes is a decision to get to the next level, right? I started getting better at my craft. Why? Because I was starting to go through the numbers. Does that make sense? 2002 made 21,000. Not a lot of money, okay? 21,000. I was full-time now, right? Made so much money that, I didn't even know what to do with it. Okay, next, right? 2003 was the year where we started moving towards RVP. And the first date we started double digiting was in the beginning of 2002. We never double digited before. We started double digiting in 2002. And then the moment we started double digiting, we never stopped double digiting. And then I just got caught up in I just wanted to win, right? How many of you guys feel that? Right? I just wanted to win. And I remember I started having attendance, people show up, right? And I wasn't alone anymore. And then it's crazy because like people quit too, right or wrong? And so in 2003, right, $43,000 we made that year. Got promoted to RVP in December of 2003, and then within the first 6 months we hit our ring. Now I'm going to tell you one thing, okay? But our first 2 years was really correcting what was in here, and it wasn't fast enough because just didn't speed it up. But I was showing up to trainings, right? And I heard Gurpreet say this before. Like showing up to trainings and learning and getting the crap out of my head, because before you could put good thoughts in and good habits, you got to get rid of bad habits, right? And so I was unaware. I didn't even know what I didn't know at the time. And until I attended enough trainings, eventually I was like, oh wow, you got to bring people, right? Oh wow, you got to schedule KTs, right? I had to listen to a message like 10,000 times before it hit home. Does that make sense? And then we made $130,000 that year. Now, it didn't take us that long after RVP to make $130,000. You know what I started doing? I started taking pictures with Keith's ring, right? With his Financial Independence Council ring, right? With his $100,000 ring. I started taking pictures. I wore it and I took pictures. I would go in the office and I would take plaques off the wall. I'm not saying do that, okay? I would take somebody else's plaque off the wall that said RVP on it. I would cover the name. I would have somebody take a picture of that. And I'm telling you, I would take, and this stuff works. It's weird, okay? But I would put pictures like in the visor of my car. I would pick pictures all over my house. And I was almost obsessed. I was obsessed with getting to RVP. I thought RVP meant you automatically got a ring. I didn't understand that. I thought that because I would see it like RVP ring, RVP equals ring, right? So I remember I would sit there watching that, and I would look at the pictures, and I would get emotional, right? Not really, but I would be like, yo, like this is gonna happen. Why? Because I see other people. I go to all these events. If I keep doing the right things, it's gonna happen. And I would do the right things, and automatically, because I wanted that so bad. Does that make sense? And then we started winning the little things. We started winning the little things in first I heard who was it that said, I forgot who said it, but somebody told me, okay, he goes I think Whittle, Bill Whittle, he goes most people are fighting for survival. They'll do anything to fight for survival. Not everybody, when they're new, is going to go for $1 million. Does that make sense? And sometimes we talk to people, and sometimes I forget that $200 bonus, that $750 bonus, that $1,000 bonus is what makes the difference in someone's life. Because sometimes the longer we hear, sometimes we get desensitized to that. Does that make sense? And that 1,000 or 2,000 makes the biggest difference, right? Going from $1 million to 1.2 or 1.3, it makes a little difference. But it doesn't make as much difference to your life as somebody that's making an extra 1,000 for the month when they first join Primerica, right or wrong. Because they're probably in debt. And so I would talk to people. I go, man, you can make $200,000. I go, and then when he said that, I go, wait a moment, I'm talking to them about something they might not really want. I got to find out what they want. Does that make sense? And then those little wins in the beginning, right? Those little hierarchy wins, winning in your office, winning in your state. Eventually, I started getting used to getting plaques. And then, why? But I wasn't winning at higher levels yet. But you got to start from somewhere. Does that make sense? When things are not right in your business, maybe you're not making the money you want to make. What is your go-to move? See, I know a lot of my friends in the business that I talk to, they go, oh, schedule an appointment. And I go, no, like in my mind, I'm like, recruit it direct. I got to recruit it direct, right? And if I do schedule an appointment, I got to recruit that client. See, everything that happened in our business came through recruiting. Like all the security sales, everything that we ever done, from securities to Vivint, right? But everything we ever done came through recruiting. I didn't have credibility in the beginning with my market, so I almost had to go out and recruit, right? Does that make sense? So that was the first thing that we kind of got good at. And going through those 77 directions, you know what started happening? We started meeting people, and we started getting confident, because now all of a sudden, at that time, I'm still in my 20s. And I'm sitting across from people that are making 100,000, right? I'm recruiting people that were presidents of companies that got fired. I'm recruiting because I'm meeting all different sorts of people, right? Where was I? Like, it was everybody. It was clients. We did job fairs. We did everything, right? I would go out. I would talk to people, right? We would get referrals. It was through everywhere. Like, I go back to some of my old friends, right? And then we will recruit them into the business. But some of the people, like, you know, like I used to get intimidated if somebody had white hair, right? And white hair with it, like, in my mind, because I thought, like, oh, that's what a CEO looks like. If they had white hair, right, and they would fold their arms like this, sit across from you, and fold their legs. And I remember sitting down like, oh, this is intimidating. Because that's what people in corporate America look like, right? Like, people that make a couple 100,000 in corporate America. That's how it's all positioned, right? And so I would see that. It would intimidate me. But after I started going through the names and numbers, I started realizing this guy made 100,000 but no longer has a job. He got fired. Right? This guy made 200,000, but they laid him off. They said that he's this age, so they're looking for people that are younger. I would meet with people, and all of a sudden I started feeling more confident, because I realized I was in the right vehicle. Because it wasn't where I am now, it's where I'm going. Does that make sense? 2009, 2012, we grew our base shop, right? We started promoting RVPs, 321. Okay, next. Okay, 2013, 440, right? 2015. We started promoting more RVPs, 591. Okay, next. 726. And watch, only in Primerica can you feel like, man, frustrated at 700,000 in income. So we were stuck at 700,000 in income for 2 years. And I'm watching all these guys go to $1 million, 1 point, like they're jumping, they're going, and I'm like, oh man, I'm stuck. Like one day I'm like, CEO, what do we do? But no one feels sorry for you at that point. But I wasn't as focused in getting directs, and you guys got me on that? And then 2018, 800,000, right? Just got over the 8th diamond, right? Got to always see progression in life, okay? And then next, in 2020, last year in COVID, during COVID, one of the things we said was, when the going gets tough, our team's going to get tougher. Does that make sense? And we said, well, no matter what happens right now, right, this is our time to go to work. Does that make sense? Right? And I said, that's what Primerica is made of, right? In Primerica, you learn to become tough. You learn to take the next levels. You learn to go to work when other people won't. Does that make sense? Right? And then finally, we rode the momentum. And in May 2020, we finally hit that million, right? And I'm telling you, we finally hit that million, right? And I almost lost all my hair, right? Because I'm telling you, man, I mean, seeing your name on that list, right? I know Andrea knows that, right? Seeing your name on that list, right? I know Peggy went over that million, right? Seeing your name on that list, right? Over, like, in the beginning, you're like, man, that's awesome. 3 years later, it's not that awesome, right? And then, and anyway, okay, in November 2020, we went past 1.1, but this year we got to start moving. Does that make sense? I was reading this book, and it said, he goes, if you want to win in life, don't listen to people that are not successful. It says you will have to accept the temporary loss of social esteem from ignorant people. And you got to do that for a period of time and keep doing it for a period of time. You know why? Because When other people tell you no and they reject you, you got to tell yourself yes. Does that make sense? And you got to tell yourself that you're worth it. You got to tell yourself that to plug into things when you don't feel like plugging in. And I'm telling you, there's no greater event right now in all of Primerica than the events that Andy Young puts together, okay? So I love this group. You guys are awesome. I love you, Andy, right? Love you, Andy. Anyway, but thank you for everything that you do for the entire company. Thank you, guys.
At the right time. Let's get big or go home.
The game plan was we came out of COVID, we would be big or bigger than when we went in. And I can promise you that is not the case in almost anywhere in North America.
Raise your hand if you've been afraid to do anything. What are you going to do when you are fearful? Are you going to give in to that? Or are you going to do it anyway?
We're changing lives. We're changing middle-class America's life. Never, ever before have they been more aware.
You gotta get in the room, baby. Look at this. It's time. It's an SNSD factory.
Will you know or will you believe that this is your shot? See, because if you don't, you ain't gonna take action. Does that make sense?
You gotta be here, because if you're not, you're missing one of the biggest, best events right now in all of the company, guys.
When you come to North Carolina, you get to meet Andy Young, the GOAT, the greatest of all time. Woo!
People have eyes, but they're not seeing. People have ears, but they're not listening. People have feet, but they're not moving. What is it that we're doing in this business if we're not growing?
You put your destiny in your hands. Nobody writes your story except you. The best lottery you have is people. Someone coming in this event and getting fired up could change your business forever.
Because if you're on the train, you're going to get into the station. But you can't get into the station if you don't get on the train. Get into the double digits so you can get into regional vice president, so you can get into saving your life forever and then living a life like you've never lived before.
I'm promoting a national sales director. Go! Your machine is fully loaded, gassed up, ready to go. What are you ready to do?
You gotta go all out. It's not about number one, it's about freedom. The truth is, you are meant to do a mission. And will you go for it? That's it. That's what you gotta ask yourself. Is it worth it? Are you worth it? Is it big enough? Are you gonna have the heart? Do you have the power? Let's get big. Thank you so much.